Kicking off week 2, we've got metabolism. So today we're going to talk about metabolic processes. So a lot like last week, I'm going to get a little sciencey on you at the beginning, but we're not going to get too far into it because I know you probably don't care. And then we'll get into metabolic rate, metabolism and your weight, metabolism and nutrition, and then some myths you might have heard about ways that you can boost your metabolism. So starting into those metabolic processes. So metabolism refers to all of the chemical processes that are going on inside your body that basically allow life and normal functioning. This is going to include breaking down nutrients from our food and then using that to build and repair our body, which of course requires energy. And that again comes from your food. The amount of energy that your body burns at any given time is affected by your metabolism. So achieving or maintaining a healthy weight is basically a balancing act when you think about it. If we regularly eat and drink more than we need for our metabolism, we're going to eventually store that more as fat instead of using that as an energy source. Most of the energy we use each day is used to keep all of the systems in our body functioning properly. And that's basically out of our control. Your bodies are smart machines and they know what to do with everything that we give it. And we can make our metabolism work for us when we exercise. When you're active, of course, you're going to burn more energy. So our metabolism is complex, but put it simply, it has 2 parts, which are carefully regulated by the body to make sure that they remain in balance, and that's catabolism and anabolism. So the breakdown of food components into their simpler forms, which can then be used to provide energy and the basic building blocks needed for growth and repair. And then basically the opposite with anabolism, the part of metabolism where our body is built or repaired. So it requires energy that comes from our food. And then again, when we eat more than we need for it, that excess nutrients from that food is going to be typically stored into our body as fat. So this is where we get a little sciencey. I'm not going to dive into this too much, but just to show you what's happening inside when we eat protein, carbs, and fats, how they get broken down, what they get broken down into, going through the TCA cycle, the electron transport chain, and then eventually becoming ATP and water. And ATP is that main energy source that we want. And that's what basically gives us the energy for all of our daily functioning and processes in our lives. And then just another little graphic. Again, you'll get these slides too as well. So if you want to dive into this more, if you have any more questions, but I didn't want to get too much into the science, just wanted to show you where everything comes from and where it goes once it's inside. And then on this slide, it just kind of breaks it down a little bit just to kind of make it a little more understanding. So what happens when we eat those macros or carbs, fats, and proteins? So from a hormonal response, your insulin goes up, glucagon goes down, and adrenaline and cortisol goes down. And then from a physiological response, our blood sugar is going to go down, starting to store fat and building protein. And we get that glucose from food, and that fat goes into adipose. So those are just simpler processes of what's going on for us there. So next, let's dive into metabolic rate. So your body's metabolic rate, or the energy that you expend, can be divided into 3 components. So there's basal metabolic rate, and if you've ever done a body composition assessment with us, we've talked to you about this before. Even at rest, your body needs energy to keep all of its systems functioning correctly. I mean, things that we kind of take for granted that our body just does: breathing, keeping your heart beating to circulate your blood, growing and repairing cells, and adjusting your hormone levels. The body's BMR accounts for the largest amount of energy that you expend in a day, so about 50 to 80%. And then there's the thermic effect of food, so thermogenesis. Your body uses energy to digest the foods and drinks that you consume, and also absorbs, transports, and stores their nutrients. So that's about 5 to 10% of your energy use. And then there's the energy used during physical activity. So during that movement, it's going to vary depending on how much energy you use each day, how active you are. Based on a moderately active person, so if you're doing 30 to 45 minutes of physical activity a day, that's going to contribute to about 20% of your daily energy use. So that's why getting up and moving, not just working out, but getting up from your desk, walking to the store, taking stairs, little things like that's going to help your metabolism and your metabolic rate more than you know. And then basal metabolic rate. So the BMR refers to the amount of energy your body needs to maintain homeostasis. Your BMR is largely determined by your total lean mass, especially muscle mass, because lean mass requires a lot of energy to maintain. Anything that reduces lean mass is going to reduce your BMR. So factors that affect your BMR based off of that, your body size. Larger adult bodies have more metabolizing tissue and a larger BMR. The amount of lean muscle tissue, as I just said, the amount of body fat. Fat cells are kind of considered sluggish, so they're going to burn far fewer calories than most other tissues and organs in the body. Your age, unfortunately, your metabolism slows down when you age due to the loss of muscle tissue, but also due to hormonal and neurological changes. Your gender, sorry ladies, but men usually have faster metabolisms. Your genetic predisposition, so your metabolic rate can be partly decided by your genes. Other things that affect your BMR, crash dieting, starving, fasting. Eating too few calories encourages the body to slow your metabolism to conserve energy, because when you do that, it kind of freaks your body out and they wonder when they're going to get food next. And that can drop up by up to 15%. And then hormonal and nervous controls. BMR is controlled by the nervous and hormonal systems. Hormonal imbalances can influence how quickly or slowly the body burns calories. The temperature of the environment that you're in, if you're sick or ill, and then drugs like caffeine, nicotine, those can also increase your BMR. So if you're wondering what yours is, there are equations out there that you can kind of get a rough estimate. So again, you'll get this slide. You don't need to write any of these numbers down. But on average, the BMR for men is about 1,900 to 2,000 calories a day. And then women, it's 1,300 to 1,400. But again, this depends on how tall you are, how old you are, and how much you weigh too as well. And there's a lot more that goes into it. This is just a basically very summarized way. And again, it's just an equation to predict it. It's not going to be your exact numbers. It's going to be more of an estimate. So breaking down that thermic effect of food a little bit more, the term thermogenesis comes from the Greek word thermos for heat. All metabolic processes in animals and plants produce heat as a reflection of a thermodynamic inefficiency, which is therefore thermogenic. So in general, however, thermogenesis is used to describe basically a process of heat generation in which heat is the primary product of metabolism. It's also used to describe the heat produced in direct response to a meal. Dietary thermogenesis, also called specific dynamic effect of food, or meal-induced thermogenesis. That's going to refer to the heat produced in response to and following of the consumption of a meal as well. So the ingestion of nutrients causes an obligatory increase in heat production by the body as a result of the metabolic costs of digestion, absorption, metabolism, and storage of nutrients. And different foods are going to raise your BMR by different amounts. For example, fat's going to raise it 0 to 5%, carbohydrates 5 to 10, proteins 20 to 30, and hot and spicy foods like chili, horseradish, and mustard, those can also have a significant effect on your thermic effect of food too. And then physical activity, as we mentioned, hardworking muscles need plenty of energy to burn. Regular exercise increases muscle mass and teaches the body to burn calories at a faster rate, even when you're at rest. So again, getting up and moving, but of course, estimating that energy that you actually spent during exercise is difficult because it's going to vary from person to person with your weight, your age, your health, the intensity of the work that you did, and depending on the activity that you did too as well. So moving on to metabolism and weight. People tend to put on fat as they age, partly because the body slowly loses muscle. And it's not clear whether muscle loss is a result of the aging process or because many people are just less active as they age. However, it probably has more to do with becoming less active. Research has shown that strength and resistance training can reduce and prevent this muscle loss. So I'm sure you've heard, or maybe you're someone who said it before, I just have a slow metabolism. Some people claim to have trouble losing weight because of a slow metabolism. Your eating habits do affect your metabolism, but the truth is more nuanced than people think. There is such a thing as slow metabolism, but it's very rare. Your metabolism being slow is not what's behind being overweight or obese. Ultimately, this is going to be a result of genetics, diet, physical activity, and other factors. Rather than a slow metabolism, factors more likely to contribute to your weight gain: eating too many calories, getting too little physical activity, your family history and genetics, if you're on certain medications, and then if you're following unhealthy habits, such as getting not enough sleep. That has a lot more effect on your weight than people want to believe. And when you go on crash diets or a very restricted calorie intake, your body still needs to find that energy from somewhere else. So your body may actually start breaking down muscle to get energy. So then what happens if you stop that crash diet? Well, you rebound and you gain weight quickly because you've lost muscle mass. So what's the best way to lose weight? Burn more calories than you consume while meeting the caloric needs of BMR, consuming carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, watching your portion sizes, and not skipping meals. So this might mean you lose weight more slowly, but it's going to be easier to keep that weight off if you don't burn through muscle mass. If you have trouble losing weight, you may be inaccurately estimating how many calories you're actually eating in a day. Unless you measure your portion sizes, it's super easy to overconsume healthy but calorically dense foods, of course, unhealthy foods too as well. But one thing, for example, nuts and peanut butter. I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever ate a serving size of peanut butter in my life. I'm usually a tablespoon off. So that's one thing that can be really easily not the correct portion, just for an example for that too as well. So we could be saying we're eating this much peanut butter, but we're actually eating a lot more than we are. So that's going to be more calories in the long run too. So looking more in depth into metabolism and nutrition. Nutrition is the key to metabolism. The pathways of metabolism rely upon nutrients that they break down in order to produce energy. So this energy in turn is required by the body to synthesize molecules like new proteins and nucleic acids like your DNA and your RNA. So carbohydrates in metabolism: starch, sugar, and fiber. Body tissues depend on glucose for all of your activities, and carbohydrates and sugars yield glucose by digestion or metabolism. And then proteins are a part of every cell in the body. Proteins are the main tissue builders in the body. Proteins help in cell structure, functions, hemoglobin, formation to carry oxygen, enzymes to carry out vital reactions, and a myriad of other functions in the body. And then, of course, there are animal and plant protein sources. Proteins are necessary for nutrition because they contain amino acids. Among the 20 or more amino acids, the human body is unable to synthesize 8 of those essential amino acids. And we kind of touched on this a little bit last week with macronutrients. Animal protein supports your metabolism and is easier to digest. Most plant proteins like beans, lentils, and chickpeas can be a little difficult to digest due to the fibers, but that's just another way that's going to help keep you feeling full or longer too as well. And then more nutrient dense per ounce animal protein is going to contain more nutrients, and nutrients that are animal based are going to be highly more absorbable too as well. And then fats in metabolism. Fats are concentrated sources of energy and provide a reserve storage for energy. They help to form the cellular structure, form a protective cushion and insulation around your vital organs. And they also absorb fat-soluble vitamins. And vitamins and minerals in metabolism, we can't forget about those too as well. The minerals in foods do not contribute directly to energy needs, but they're important as body regulators, and they play a role in metabolic pathways of the body. And minerals are key in metabolic health, and we'll get a lot more on those micronutrients next week too. So let's talk about metabolism boosts. Unfortunately, there are myths about boosting metabolism than tactics that work. You might be tempted by energy drinks, shakes, and supplements that claim to increase your metabolism or boost fat loss. And while you might notice some results initially, these products are usually not effective long term. So let's look into some of these myths. Number 1, exercise boosts your metabolism long after you stop. So it's true that you burn more calories when you exercise. That increased calorie burn lasts as long as your workout. You might keep burning extra calories for an hour or so after that, but the after effects of exercise stop there. Once you stop moving, your metabolism is going to slowly go back to its resting state. Number 2, Yes, muscle burns more calories than fat. So will building more muscle not boost your metabolism? Yes, but only by a small amount. Most regular exercisers only gain a few pounds of muscle, and that's not enough to make a big difference in the number of calories that you burn. So what you can do, you make sure you're incorporating those strength training 2+ days a week at the minimum. Myth number 3, eating certain foods can boost your metabolism. Eating foods like green tea, caffeine, or hot chili peppers is not going to help you shed excess weight. It might provide a small boost in your metabolism, but not enough to make a difference in your weight. So just make sure you're choosing high quality, nutritious foods that taste good, and you're eating a large variety of them too as well. Number 4, eating small meals during the day increases your metabolism. Unfortunately, there's little evidence that eating small, frequent meals boosts your metabolism as compared to just eating 3 meals a day. Spreading your meals throughout the day might keep you from getting too hungry or overeating. So it's still not an awful idea. Just pay attention to your own hunger cues and eat when you're hungry, not just because of the time of day that it is. Number 5, getting a full night's sleep is good for your metabolism. A good night's sleep will not boost your metabolism, but going without sleep can add pounds. Sleep-deprived people tend to eat more calories than they need, possibly to deal with feeling tired. So really try to create that sleep routine, and that's something that we've been stressing for probably ever, it feels like. And then myth number 6, gain weight as you age because your metabolism slows down. So yes, I mean, we mentioned that earlier. It's true that our metabolism is slower than when we were kids. A lot of midlife weight gain happens because we become less active. Jobs and family push exercise to the back burner. When we don't move as much, we lose muscle and we gain fat. As you get older, you may also have trouble regulating your meals with your age. After a big meal, younger people tend to eat less until their bodies use up the calories. This natural appetite control seems to fade as we get older too as well. Unless you pay close attention, big meals are going to add up quickly. So making sure we're staying regularly active with exercise, and we're watching our portion control too as well. So that is it. I didn't want to get too sciencey, wanted to be a little broad, but I know I wanted to talk about those myths of metabolism because I've heard those quite a bit too as well. And also just what all goes into metabolism without going into the full process. Because let me tell you, biochemistry was not my favorite class in college, and I don't want to make you guys go through that either. So if anyone has any questions, definitely let me know. You can drop them in the comments, or if you want to unmute, you can ask a question too as well. Otherwise, don't hesitate to email me and reach out with your questions too. And you will be getting a copy of this presentation on Monday when we send out the information for week 3, which is micronutrients.